Well, all good things come to an end, and the Resident Evil movie series comes to an end too. As I've stated before, these are not great films, but I had fun watching them. I do think Milla Jovovich certainly proved herself as an action performer, and probably should have been given chances at better franchises. I believe I mentioned also that your boy Zach from Comics Matter, formerly Diversity in Comics, said she was the perfect choice to be Black Widow, and that's certainly true. Nothing against Scarlett Johansson. She's done a great job, and I look forward to her film. But yes, Milla Jovovich just could have completely become that character. And, well, it's too bad. Now, had they kept with the Ben Affleck Batman, I think she would have made a great Catwoman, because, they're contemporaries age-wise and whatnot. So, but, no. So, hopefully she'll get something else, something better than the Hellboy movie. I know she was all upset at people not turning out and trashing it and everything, but Milla... Yeah, it wasn't worthy of you, let's say that. But, she tried, and they all tried, and it just didn't work. But anyway, her big franchise, of course, was Resident Evil, and made it to 6 films, which is an achievement unto itself. So this one, rather than a one-word title like the rest of them had, this one is The Final Chapter. The final chapter. Yeah. Well, I guess because there just wasn't a vision for this thing at all. This is probably the worst of the batch. I mean, there's a lot of silliness and kind of stupid things here and there in the Resident Evil films, but this one, I don't know what happened. I guess we got to do it to do it. and it's similar to other films. It starts off as if you missed another movie in between. This happened between some of the other films, and especially from the second one into the third one. And then with Afterlife, you actually get a cool sequence at the beginning. That's probably the best they filmed for the whole series. It's really cool to watch, and it's all very interesting and everything. And looking at it, kind of said, man, that should have been the movie. It should have been this build up to that moment where she has to break into that facility with her Alice army and all that. That seems to be the peak of the series. Whereas here we pick up more or less where the last one left off, which Alice ends up having to join forces with Wesker. He sends in a crew to rescue her from the evil forces of the Red Queen, who's decided to eliminate humanity because it's bad, and has taken over what's left of the Umbrella Corporation. And so this forces people like Wesker and Alice to work together against their common enemy. And so his team goes in there, and they work together, and they get out. And at the end, they end up at the White House where Wesker is holed up. And boy, this is big. It's like a fortress now, and there's a giant army of zombies and monsters coming on it. And he said, "This is humanity's last stand." And he injects her with the T-virus to give her superpowers back. And then there's where the movie ends. It's, oh my goodness, there's Jill Valentine is back, and and they introduced the video game characters of Leon and Ada Wong, and there they are bracing for this final battle, and there's monsters and zombies everywhere, and it ends. Well, the final chapter opens after the big battle happened. Everything is devastated. Washington, D.C. is in ruins, and it seems the only survivor is Alice. And there's only one monster left. There's a fat zombie. She dispatches that pretty quick. And then there's one of the, the bat dragons. And there's only one. There were several at the end of the last movie, but here we get one. She fights with that. And then she encounters the Red Queen again. Only this time, the Red Queen is good. And Wesker was the bad guy. Since we missed the movie in between, Wesker didn't give her superpowers back. He just did it to make her think it happened in an attempt to kill her. She could have just left her there at the base. It really comes across as if nobody watched their last movie. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. In a couple of the films, you would have Alice narrate and recap everything. Here, she recaps and rewrites the entire series, and borrows heavily from one of the plots from the second film, where you had the scientist who, I believe they stated in that one that he had created the T-virus, or was certainly instrumental in it, and used it to cure or treat his daughter from a degenerative muscle or nerve disease that he had suffered from, and he's now wheelchair bound, and he didn't want her to suffer the same thing, so he used the T-virus for her to do that. And so that's when they had to save the little girl, and that was the thing. So they graphed that on to Alice herself, that her father was trying to save her from progeria, which is this disease where you age very rapidly. So you have like these kids who look like really old people, but they're only like 12 or whatever, and then rarely do they make it to adulthood. And so this was he was experimenting on that, and then they discovered that it can create zombies, and apparently a zombie outbreak happened, and they managed to close it up and quiet that down. But then we discovered the real villain wasn't Wesker, it was Dr. Isaacs, who we thought we had met in the third movie. But no, that was just a clone, and he turned into a monster and died. So now there's another clone riding around in what looks like the Batmobile from Dark Knight Returns, which is odd because the actor, Lane Glenn, will be, or was going to be, I don't know if the DC streaming service is going to last long enough for this to happen, but he was cast to be Bruce Wayne in the second season of Titan. So there you go. Maybe they can borrow that Batmobile for him so he could be the Dark Knight Returns. But anyway, so there's all that. This version of him is some kind of religious fanatic and so on and so forth. There's lots of different adventures. There's only a handful that's kind of cool where she outfoxes some guys who capture her and all this, but she doesn't have her superpowers because they didn't know how to write that. And that was a missed opportunity where you could have had her and Wesker, and they're developing the superpowers and pushing the world into a whole other landscape where it's this, literally gods and monsters fighting it out and stuff like that. But they didn't know what to do with that. So, okay, it was a trick. She doesn't really have her powers, which makes it less believable that she could survive all the stuff she goes through in the struggle through this movie. But basically, the Red Queen is good and tells her there's an antidote to the T-virus. Well, a little late now. There's only a handful of people left underground. But okay, let's try to save humanity. So she's on a mission, and it's buried back at the original facility in Raccoon City. So she's headed over to Raccoon City, and they were going to end where it began. And of course, they get there, and it's a long, drawn out. She meets new friends, and Claire shows up, the only one left that she met in the other movies besides Wesker and Dr. Isaacs. She and it was important here is that there were several instances to show the maternal instincts within Alice. And first, that was the girl Angela, who was the daughter of the scientist who I thought created the T-virus, but no, it was Alice's father. And then there was Kmart from the other movie, and they were looking for her, and they rescued her in the fourth movie, and then we just forgot about her. And then there was the clone daughter that she found at the facility in the fifth movie, and it says, "I'm your mommy now," and she takes the girl in, and she's with her, and they go to the White House, and the big battle happens, and never mentions her again. I guess she died in the battle. I don't know. They just completely forgot. So on they go with all kinds of, well, I was going to say spectacular. Not really. A lot of the CGI is kind of covered up. They keep it in the shadows and stuff like that. So you got more mutant zombie dogs attacking and whatnot. And and Batwoman's there, the actress. Batwoman. And she has to save Batwoman several times, but Batwoman falls into a giant fan and gets shredded. So there's a traitor within their midst of their group going after the antidote within the hive. And it turns out, oh no, it's this nice doctor who's that Claire has fallen in love with. But no, he was a traitor all along. So there you go, surprise. So the real Dr. Isaacs has been in cryogenic sleep. It's because he came up with the plot that the world was going to end. He said global warming is going to destroy the world. So interestingly enough, the Umbrella Corporation were a bunch of SJW. And they needed population control. So they decided to deliberately release the T-virus to wipe out humanity while they slept in their cryogenic chambers. And after everything was gone, they would reemerge and start the world anew in their image. Oh, well. Literally playing God, yes. And I guess Wesker was watching over this. Now, Wesker, of course, they demonstrated that he had superpowers. And he also demonstrated it at the end of the last movie where he used his super speed to leap over and inject Alice very quickly and all that. Here, he doesn't have any. He gets beat pretty easily and dies. And he's just a stupid stooge for Dr. Isaacs. Dr. Isaacs has superpowers, but somehow Alice and Claire are able to overcome him. It's really bad, even with his Terminator vision. But he ultimately gets killed by his clone, who couldn't stand the fact that he was just found out he was just a clone, and then he gets eaten by the zombies. Yes, and so yes, Dr. Isaacs was the real villain all along, and he had killed Alice's father. But there's a catch. Alice herself is a clone. Yes, the real Alice is still aging rapidly, and she's in a wheelchair, and she decides to side with clone Alice, and she gets the antidote for the virus and releases it. But oh no, this will mean Alice will die. Well, why? She doesn't have. They keep saying you've had the T virus. She did, but Wesker removed it. You can't just keep doing this and they go, no, this is a different antidote. It doesn't work that way. And so, but surprisingly, I guess they remembered at the time, or the cast forgot. I don't know, because she doesn't die. She wakes up after it was released. The zombies are all dead. They instantly die. So she doesn't get eaten. And there you go. Yay. But there's still monsters out there, and it's going to take a while for the airborne antivirus to get out there and counteract the T-virus. So she still has plenty of adventures to come. We just won't get to see them. We get to see, there's more bat dragons, but we really only just see their shadows as she's riding off into the sunset. So, pretty bad. Even by the standards of a series that, granted, I didn't expect much intellectually. But, geez Louise, you rewrote your entire series and forgot your previous movie. I mean, it's terrible. There was always the possibility that, yes, she was a clone, but they kind of just never followed up on it. They suddenly right, yeah, she could be a clone. And so there you go. Oh boy. And the thing of it was at the beginning of the movie, she wakes up and doesn't remember anything. And they said, oh, that's a side effect of of this gas that the Red Queen released, when there's a problem. And she got gassed along with everybody else, and then her, her fake husband, and he didn't have memory either through that whole movie. And finally, towards the end, they started to remember. She begins to remember who she was, and all. So this idea that she doesn't remember anything, no, no, that's not true. I mean, they didn't go into details about her family and her, childhood and all that, but it's terrible. It's just really bad. And the Red Queen, now all along, originally, the second movie, which posited the wheelchair-bound scientist as being the inventor of the T-virus, and that he had developed the Red Queen based on his daughter. And so the Red Queen was supposed to look like her. And now all of a sudden they're saying, no, the Red Queen was based on young Alice. And no. Just, it's just really bad. How do you miss that? I mean, I know, like I said, this is a silly series, but so yeah, this was the worst of the bunch for that alone, which is done several times over with different plot points of the whole series. So you can't just rewrite your whole story unless you have time travel or something like that in it, which they don't. So yeah, it just so the final chapter is the worst of the bunch. So there you go, the end of Resident Evil. There's supposed to be a reboot, and maybe that one will be more in line of the narrative that the video game presented. I don't know. Or maybe we'll finally find out what happened to all those other girls that she adopted briefly. What happened to Leon and Ada Wong? And where's Jill Valentine and her spider robot? We don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Nah, it'll just be a reboot, if it happens at all. I don't know. Is Resident Evil still popular in the video game world? I wouldn't know. But there you go. The Resident Evil series. Thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe? And while you're here, check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you.